Hi church, we're in lockdown again, so I thought I'd record just a really short message for you this morning. I've talked to a few people this week and I've really got a sense that people are a little bit rattled at the moment. Last year we went through this whole pandemic thing and there was a sense of unity that we were going through this together. We were all in it together and we were going to come out the other side as a better world. I think this year we've sort of got lockdown fatigue. People's resilience is running low. They've just had enough. And they're wondering how this is going to pan out. People are rattled about their futures. There's a lot more uncertainty about how this is going to end up. And I just want to really speak to that and encourage you this morning, if I can. I'd like to read to you just a verse from Isaiah chapter 54. This is a part of Isaiah that's written in the final days of the Babylonian exile. So this is written to a people who are in exile, a people who are fearful, they don't know what their future holds. And Isaiah writes these words of comfort from the Lord. And he says this in Isaiah 54:10. Though the mountains be shaken and the hills be removed, yet my unfailing love for you will not be shaken, nor my covenant of peace be removed, says the Lord who has compassion on you. Though the mountains may be shaken and the hills be removed, yet my unfailing love will not be shaken. We've talked about it before, this word unfailing love. This is the Hebrew word chesed, and it means steadfast love, loyal love. Sometimes it's translated as loving kindness. It's a beautiful picture of the faithfulness of God. And what I love about chesed is that it's not actually dependent on me. It's not about the way I look, thank goodness. It's not about what I do. It's not about what I achieve. It's nothing to do with my character. It's nothing to do with me at all. I haven't earned it. Chesed, this loyal, steadfast love, is purely the character of God. He loves us in a faithful, unfailing, loyal way because he cannot do anything else. This is his character. What a picture that gives hope. He cannot help but be faithful to himself and to love us with a steadfast, unfailing love. This picture here says, though the mountains may be removed and the hills, these immovable objects in our life, even if they move, God's faithfulness will not move. It will not falter. The writer of Ecclesiastes, you may be familiar with this, says that everything under the sun is hebel. This is another Hebrew word, hebel. Sometimes, and erroneously, I would argue, it's been translated as vanity or meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Everything under the sun. Well, this word it literally means breath. There's a transience, a temporariness to this word. And if we're to be really faithful to the origin of the Hebrew word, I think a truer meaning is temporary. Life is like a breath. It doesn't mean that it's meaningless. It just means you can't contain it. To a person, a breath is very important. Without it, this is the sign we know we're alive, a breath. But you try grab hold of a breath. You try catch it. It's a chasing after the wind. Life is a breath. So the writer of Ecclesiastes is saying, don't put your faith in anything under the sun, because everything under the sun is temporary. My life is a breath. It's a vapor, it's a mist. It's all just vapor management. This building that has been here for 132 years, one day it'll fall down. Even mountains that have been around for perhaps millions of years, one day even they will erode and be moved. But even if they're removed, the faithfulness of God still stands. Everything under the sun is temporary. That's why Paul, in his letter to the Corinthians, says, so we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but what is unseen. For what is seen, what is under the sun, for things under the sun provides sunlight and illuminates objects for us to see. So everything I see is under the sun. Paul says we don't put our faith in the things that are seen, that are under the sun, because as we know, everything under the sun is temporary. Don't put your trust, your hope, your faith in anything that is temporary. Whether it be your own life, whether it be structures and systems, whether it even be mountains. Do not put your faith in the things under the sun that can be seen. Instead, put your faith in the things that are unseen, the things that are not under the sun, the things that are under the S-O-N, the Son. Jesus, the author and perfecter of life, the one through whom all things were created and all things are held together and sustained, and the one who we believe is drawing and reconciling and redeeming all things to himself, things on heaven and things on earth, things under the sun, things outside the sun. But we fix our eyes not on what is breath-like or transient or temporary, but what is eternal. The Psalm of David says, I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? I always pictured this as looking up to a beautiful picture of mountains and my help coming from the mountains. But what if the mountains are actually the obstacles? What if the mountains are the intimidating things in my life right now that have rattled me, that I am concerned about, that I do fear for my family and my job security and my health? What if they're the mountains? And what if this psalm is saying, I lift my eyes up, not to the beauty of the mountains, but to the fear and the uncertainty and the seeming immovability and insurmountable nature of these mountains? What if it's them that actually lift my eyes up? And then I realize, where does my help come from? Well, it doesn't come from the mountains themselves. And it doesn't come from anything that's temporary. In fact, it doesn't come from anything that is under the sun. It comes from the maker of heaven and earth. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but what is unseen over the horizon. We are people who have had a glimpse, a foretaste of the kingdom that is to come. And while we don't live in that reality yet, we are called to live as though it already exists now. We are people of a future promise, called to live now as a non-anxious presence, as bearers of life and hope in this world. Our life and our witness is of the one and the age to come. So friends, this week, when you're rattled, which you might be, when you're fearful, which happens, when you're confused because there are so many voices, remember this: we do not fix our eyes on what is seen, what is under the sun. For everything that is under the sun is breath-like. It is temporary. The good and the bad will not last. We fix our eyes beyond the mountains, for they will move. Beyond the hills, for Isaiah says, the mountains will be shaken and the hills will be moved. But the unfailing love, the loving kindness, the steadfast, loyal love that will not fail, that is the very nature of God, it will not be removed. It will not fade, and it will not be shaken. So take heart, friends, because Jesus doesn't sugarcoat it. He says, in this world we will have trouble. In this world we will face difficulties. In this world there will be oppression and injustice. But take heart, says Jesus, for I have overcome the world. Take heart, friends, and remember where your help comes from.